Hi, I'm Jamie from Write On with Jamie, and today we're going to discuss comma splices in writing. But first, we need to determine what comma splices are and why they are detrimental or harmful to your writing. Regardless of the subject you're writing about or the audience you're writing for, when you write, you need to use complete sentences that thoroughly express your ideas. Using correct grammar makes everything easier to read. Nothing distracts your reader more than grammatical errors, and comma splices are at the top of the list of grammatical errors in writing. Now you might be asking, Jamie, how can I identify and avoid comma splices? I'm so glad that you asked. Today we're not only going to cover how to identify and avoid them, but also how to correct those tricky comma splices that sneak by you. So let's begin. It has been said that the pen is the tongue of the mind, which is precisely right. Since we use our mouth to speak and express our thoughts, then it makes sense that we use a pen to write and express those same thoughts on paper. Because the expression of your thoughts is critical to communication, you should do everything possible to make your written work easy to read and comprehend. This will demonstrate your command of conventions, which is basically grammar, spelling, punctuation, capitalization, etc. To this end, it is important to understand and avoid comma splices, and it's also crucial to good writing to know how to identify them. Let's take a look at comma splices. When you join two independent clauses with a comma and no conjunction, it's called a comma splice. Some people consider this a type of run-on sentence, while other people think of it as a punctuation error. Comma splices are similar to run-on sentences because they also incorrectly connect two independent clauses. A comma splice occurs when two independent clauses are connected with only a comma. Let's take a look at this example of a comma splice and identify the two independent clauses. I was running late and forgot my backpack. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. The independent clause, I was running late and forgot my backpack, can stand alone as a sentence. So can the second independent clause. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. Because these two independent clauses are joined with a comma, we have a comma splice. The comma is used to splice or join together two complete independent clauses, even though that isn't the function of a comma. It's easy to see why this error is called a comma splice. Basically, whenever you join two complete sentences with a comma, you're going to have a grammar error. Luckily, this is a pretty easy error to correct. Let's take a look at the ways you can correct a comma splice. The first method to correct a comma splice is by completely separating each of the two independent clauses with a period. Here we have the comma splice. I was running late and forgot my backpack, comma. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. First, we need to identify each independent clause. Hint, in a comma splice, they're usually going to be before and after the comma. In this instance, I was running late and forgot my backpack, and I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens are the independent clauses. To correct by separating with a period, we replace the comma with a period. I was running late and forgot my backpack, period. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens, period. This is probably the easiest way to correct a comma splice. Simply replace the comma with a period and capitalize the first word in the second independent clause if needed. The next method to correct a comma splice is by completely separating each of the two independent clauses with a semicolon. Here we have the same comma splice. I was running late and forgot my backpack. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. Again, we identify each independent clause. Because we're using the same example, they will once again be, I was running late and forgot my backpack, and I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. These are our independent clauses. To correct by separating with a semicolon, we replace the comma with a semicolon. I was running late and forgot my backpack. Semicolon. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. Period. This is also an easy way to correct a comma splice. Simply replace the comma with a semicolon, but in this case, we don't need to capitalize the first word in the second independent clause, unless it's a word that should always be capitalized. Another method you can use to correct a comma splice is slightly more advanced. In this method, you completely separate each of the two independent clauses with a semicolon, a subordinating conjunction, and a comma. We've already identified each independent clause. I was running late and forgot my backpack. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. To correct by separating with a semicolon, a subordinating conjunction, and a comma, we replace the comma with a semicolon and add a subordinating conjunction, such as after, although, as long as, because, before, even though, if, in case, once, only, since, so, that, therefore, though, till, unless, until, whenever, and while. After the subordinating conjunction, don't forget to put your comma. I was running late and forgot my backpack, semicolon. Therefore, comma, I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. Because this method is a more advanced way to correct a comma splice, it will add to your writing sentence fluency and showcase your command of conventions. Still another method to correct a comma splice is by making one of the independent clauses a dependent clause with a subordinating conjunction. And here's our comma splice. I was running late and forgot my backpack, comma. I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. To correct the comma splice by making one of the independent clauses a dependent clause, add a subordinating conjunction, such as because, to the first independent clause. The subordinating conjunction, because, shows cause and effect. Because I was running late and forgot my backpack, I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. In this case, do not take the comma out. This method of correcting a comma splice will add depth and maturity to your writing. You are showing how the sentences relate to each other, and a complex sentence is always a great way to make your sentence fluency in writing stand out. The final method we are going to discuss is to correct a comma splice by completely separating each of the two independent clauses with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. We've identified each independent clause. Because we are using the same example, they will once again be, I was running late and forgot my backpack, and I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. To correct by separating with a coordinating conjunction, we simply add a coordinating conjunction after the comma. To remember the 7 coordinating conjunctions, think fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. I was running late and forgot my backpack, comma, so I had to spend the day borrowing paper and pens. This is an easy way to correct a comma splice. Simply add a coordinating conjunction after the comma. We don't need to capitalize the first word in the second independent clause then, unless it's a word that should always be capitalized. If you have the worksheet for this lesson, you can pause the video here and answer questions 1 through 5. Review the previous section of the video to help you determine the correct answers. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to comma splices in writing. If you would like the entire lesson, click on the links in the description. I have both a middle school and a high school version. The lesson comes complete with both a digital component ready to be used in any learning management system for independent student instruction and a classroom-ready component with PowerPoint and PDFs. Detailed lesson plans and the rest of this entertaining instructional video complete the lesson. This resource is also part of a sentence fluency and grammar bundle that includes the following lessons: adverbs, comma splices, commas in a list, complex sentences as transitions, complex sentences, compound sentences, sentence fragments and run-on sentences, gerunds, prepositions and prepositional phrases, and transition words. Thanks for watching my video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Right on!